create is a 3D printed base. To do this, it will be easier to create a new part studio. To do this, move your mouse to the bottom left of the screen and insert a new element. Create a part studio. In the part studio, we wish to draw on this top datum plane. To do this, we're going to add a new sketch and select the datum plane. On here, we're going to look at it in a 2D view, and we're going to sketch a corner rectangle from the top left here to the bottom right here. Click once, click again, and release. We now need to dimension this rectangle to become a square. Click on one, change to be 56 millimeters. Click on another, change also to be 56. And ideally, we could do with it being in the center of our datum plane, just to make life a little bit easier. You may notice if you look very carefully, it's slightly bigger on this side than it is here. So to do this, we're going to select the line, then select the center point, and that places a measurement between the two, and you want to do half of this measurement, which is 28. We're going to repeat the same for the middle and the top, and you can see again we change that to 28, meaning our square is now exactly in the middle. We're going to accept our sketch, we're going to spin round in 3D and simply extrude our sketch 5 millimeters. Select it, choose 5, and choose OK. Block. We're now going to sketch 4 rectangles on the top surface here. To do this, choose the sketch and select the top face, and again, top view. Let's zoom in. Select the corner rectangle. I'd like you now to sketch 4 rectangles going across with a slight gap from the edge. We now need to dimension these rectangles very accurately. All of the rectangles are 2.2 millimeters from the edge. So we'll start with that measurement. Select one, select the other, and drag away, and change to be 2.2. Notice I've changed the first one, others have also moved. So again, we're going to select all of them and change. All of the rectangles are now the correct distance from the edges. What we now need to do is measure the width of the rectangle, the thickness of the rectangle, and then the distance from the edges. So we'll start with the width. Okay, the width is 20 millimeters. We'll repeat that for each of the rectangles in turn. Next, we'll do the thickness of the rectangles. To do this, we select both lines, and we're going to choose 3 millimeters. Lastly, we're going to measure the distance from the edge of one of these rectangles to the edge of your work. Select both edges and change to be 18. The other side will also be 18 because the total width is 56 and we have 18, 20, therefore leaving 18 on this side. We'll repeat for each of the other edges of the rectangles. Now we've accurately modelled our rectangles in place, we'll accept our sketch, spin round into 3D, and now what we wish to do is extrude those rectangles. So select all four, like so. And what we want to do is to extrude these rectangles to a height. We want the height to be 14 millimeters. And click accept. How you can edit a feature. We actually extruded these blocks 14 millimeters, but we really want to do them 12 millimeters. To change a feature after you have modelled, hover over it on your model tree, right mouse click and choose edit. In the dialog box now, we can easily change a measurement. Hit accept and you can see that all move. This is how you can go back and change any extrusion or any sketch at any time. You right click and choose edit. Everything is correct so far, so we'll now move on. 4 holes onto this top surface so that we can add feet that are 3D printed onto this base part. To do this, we're going to select the sketch tool, select our top face, look at it from above, and let's zoom in to make life easier. We're going to use the center point circle tool. We're going to draw 4 circles, 1 in each corner of the square. What we then need to do is choose our dimension tool and measure our circle from the center point here to the side and from the top line here to the center point. Click on 1, click on the center, click on the line that you wish to measure from. Here is my measurement. Let's type in 10. Moves our circle to be 10. It's actually moved our circle to the side. We don't need to worry about that because what we need to do is measure our center and our line. In this case, again, we want 10. However, if I type in 10, you'll notice that it moves 10 from the outside. So what we need to do in this instance is actually change our measurement to be -10, which moves our circle to the correct place. We're now going to do the same for our other circles. Pick the center point, pick a line, measure, -10. Pick the center point, pick the bottom edge, -10. Puts our circle in the correct place. If your circles are moved inside your work, that is fine. It won't be -10, it will be +10, or just 10. So you can see very quickly, I'm just going to move my circles into the correct place on my work. I now have my 4 circles that are 10 millimeters from the edge and 10 millimeters from the edge. What I now need to do is just make sure that my circles are all the correct size. So I'm going to zoom in and just pick the outer edge of my circle while I've got the dimension tool selected and drag away. This currently now means that my circle is 10.59507 millimeters in diameter. I'm going to change that to be 8. And I'm going to repeat that for my other circles. Like so. Accept my sketch, spin round into 3D, extrude my circles, drag down, and then select other circles as well. Ensure that we're not on add, that what we wish to do is remove, and we end up with 4 holes. Accept the sketch. To do this, click on the sketch tool. We want to add a sketch to our top face. Let's look at our top face from above. Let's zoom in to make life easier. Let's choose a center point circle. Click in the center of your work. This is why we made our square exactly in the middle. This means that our circle is now in the middle. We're going to choose the dimension tool and we're going to dimension this whole to be 15 millimeters. We're going to accept, spin round in 3D, extrude our circle downwards, removing the material, and accept. Just to finish our part is soften the edges. Softening the edges means adding a small round or fillet. We do this by going to the fillet tool on the top toolbar, zooming in, selecting an edge. At the moment it's adding a 5mm round. We'll add a radius of 3 because we only want a small one, and then we'll zoom out and pick the other edges. If you can zoom in without spinning your work, it still works. You probably cannot get this edge, so let's spin our cube round here and let's pick our edge. With the same 3mm round, we'll also add a round to our top edges. Let's select those to soften them. And lastly, to give these extrusions a little bit more added strength, we're also going to round our bottom edges to fillet them to this surface. This additional piece of material here gives great strength to these parts, meaning they don't snap off. So I'm going to go around my edges, the ones that I can see. This requires some spinning of your work to be able to select all of the edges. As you can see, and when I've done, I'll accept, and you can see now I have all of my edges. Stage now is to see what this part will look like within our assembly. We can do this by going to our assembly. Here it is with all of our parts in. Let's hide the bottom legs by selecting hide bottom leg part. Hover over and you click on the eye and it hides the part. Let's click on insert. Let's go to Part Studio. Here is my new Part Studio that I just created, and brings in my part. I'm going to use my cube just to rotate my work, because I'm just going to do this visually by eye. As you can see, here is my part in the right place. So I'm going to accept. I'm now going to select my part, and I'm just going to maneuver it ever so slightly, as you can see, just to get an idea that everything is in the correct place, as you can see there, like so. Okay, let's click off it. The last thing that we will do on this is to choose some planar mates, as we have done so far. We're going to mate this surface with this surface. And if we think about this, how we could do this, if we select this surface and select the center here, we select this surface and select the center of this one, the two parts should line up accurately. Now that we've got our part in place, we need to do our planar mate. We'll go to the planar mate tool. Now, we need to zoom right in. The part that we want, the exact point, is this point here. So we need to make sure that this face is selected, not this one, and move our mouse across until we can choose that point. Now we're going to zoom out a little and spin our cube around. What we want to do now is join that point to this point here of this bottom face. So let's zoom in, let's get our face and choose the matching point. Now when I zoom out, what you should see is that our part is perfectly aligned on all four sides with a slight distance to the outside of your work. Let's green tick to accept. Close the planar mate